So let's take a look at how we can create all of these sections one by one. So in part one, we stopped at this point. So let's go ahead and continue uh, with the next scene. So for this scene, is quite similar to the previous one, except we don't have an in transition, but we have an out transition, as you can see. And this is joined as a group. It's written as a group, and if you have renamed it and you're trying to find out if it's a group or if it's not, when you select the layer or the particular element, it would mention that it is a group right here, that is open group, or you can see it right here as well. So go ahead and click on it. So these two are different text elements. So as you can see, when the scene is loaded for this particular two layers, when the scene is loaded, everything you need in is already there. There's no transition to it. But we do have another text element, which is one package, which is in different color. And this one we want it in a different color and in a different effect, which comes from top to the middle of the screen. And we have the particular transition element right here. So since it is coming from top to the center of the screen, which is basically an in transition, here you can head over to motion in position. You're basically positioning the element from start to stop, which is right here. For this example, we have it as bottom because it's from outside of the screen to the middle of the scene. So that's what happens. So yeah, and another thing that you can see is one starts to appear into the screen and then package. So in order to do that, once you have selected this, initially it would be selected at paragraph, but you can go ahead and click on word. Since one package is two words, so it takes place one at a time. One would appear onto the screen and then package in forward direction. So that is everything in this particular um, group. So let's move on to the next one, which is again another group, but it is very different from all the previous ones that we have seen. And let's go ahead and open the group. So here we have three groups, as you can see. By default, we have this dark blue or blue to a little bit of black background. And here we have this irregular shape. I'm going to just hide this so that you can see the shape. So it's kind of like a blob shape, irregular shape. And here we have a rectangle shape with rounded corners. In order to bring this similar for the white background that we did, you can go ahead and click on plus rectangle, and then using these corner points, you can drag in how much you want the radius or the corner radius to be in. Uh, quite simple. You can change colors as well. So a new element that has been introduced for this scene is the typing element. To bring in the typing element, you can head over to Studio, scroll down. Here you have the typewriter. Simply drag and drop. So once you have dragged and dropped it onto the screen, here you have this particular text box. Basically, you have two text boxes, but I've deleted the next one. It basically deletes the second one, basically deletes it, deletes the text and writes types again. So I did not want that particular effect to take place, so I just simply deleted that, and I've added in the code. It can be anything, any any text for that matter. So once you have typed in the text for that, then you can simply click out, and when you start click on play. It basically acts like a typewriter along with the sound. So it is that simple. So let's go ahead back to the main timeline. That is it for this particular group. So let's go ahead and check the next one, which is this. So basically we are demonstrating that this particular line of code will be seen as this checkbox and this title right here. So this particular scene is basically again a typewriter, as you can see, and this particular checkbox is fading in or zooming out up on the screen. So let's take a look at the transition I've applied. Open group. So here again we have a different background, which is white. So as you can see we have three layers. First of all we have a white background and the square. As you can see, in order to bring a square, again simply click on plus square, and then you can drag these 4 points. You can actually click on one and the rest will follow um, for the radius of the corner. This particular square actually zooms in, and to replicate that effect you can simply select the layer, um, motion in, and it's basically zooming into the screen. So it's basically scale and up. So that is what I've applied to this. So you can also go ahead and give it a color. I've left the white color as it is because the background is white itself, and I've given a border width of 3 and opted for a really nice gray color. Okay, so the next one is the typing effect, which is quite easy because we have seen a couple of examples before. And it is, you can head over to Studio, Typewriter, drag and drop it. And once you have the typewriter on the screen, you can simply edit text, add in the text, and you can simply click outside of that particular dialog box. And when you have all of the layers together, you can simply achieve this particular animation. So let's head back to the main timeline. So let's move on to code 2. And as you can see that code 2 is quite similar to code 1, except code 2 has an additional line right here. And you can simply duplicate code 1 and place it after this particular layer, and you can continue editing right on. So as for toppings checkbox 2, I have duplicated this particular toppings checkbox 1 layer, which is right here. It is quite simple and straightforward. You can Control C, Control V and place this layer right here, and you can rename it. So we have quite a number of layers. So let's take a look at it. So you can simply go ahead, open the group. So as you can see, we have a ton of different layers. And let's start from the last layer, which is the white background, plus sign, rectangle, and change the color right here. And the next layer is again another rectangle, except this one has um, a border. It is quite simple and straightforward, like the checkbox that we have seen earlier. You can opt for rectangle, and then you can adjust corners right here. It's quite simple, and you can change the background or leave it as it is, since the background itself is white, so you can leave this as white. As you can notice, it quite fades in. We are looking at the gray border right here. In order to have the fade in effect, you can simply click on the layer, head over to motion, uh, in transition, fade, and you can click on fade in option. It's right here. So let's head over to checkbox 1. So it is quite similar to the previous one, except this doesn't have any transition, and in order to delete a transition you can simply click on it, right click, delete transition or the animation. So so you can add in how many ever checkboxes that you want. In this case we have three text titles right here. So we have three checkboxes. So if you notice carefully that we have three checkboxes and three text elements, and none of them have any animation or transition applied to them, but the way that they are aligned is that at the same time both the checkbox 1 and the first text element lands on the screen at the same time. And same goes for the second line of text and the checkbox, and same for the third as well. So these are small changes that you can do in order to make quite a big difference to the video. So another thing that you would have seen is this particular, well, it's not really seen that much because it is white. Once I hide it, here you can see that the rectangle is like all round. I didn't cut out this particular part of the rectangle or anything. So you can simply add in another rectangle and place it in such a way that it is right between the text and the rectangle, so that it has like a little cut-in effect. As you can see, this is what we are aiming for. So it looks really nice. And last but not least, we have a typing effect, which is quite straightforward and clean. And with all of the layers right in its perfect place, you can get this particular animation. So let's head back to the main timeline. So we have taken a look at toppings checkbox 2. Let's head over to code 3. And code 3 is also quite similar. We have an additional line of code, which is quite straightforward. You simply um, open the group, click on typing element, and you can click on edit text, and you can scroll down and you can add in, which is quite straightforward. So let's head over to toppings checkbox C, and here we have a little bit of change, not too much, but we have one line of change right here. So this particular light gray text we didn't have, so let's go ahead and see how we can do it. So let's take a look at the entire transition and entire animation. From the entire clip, we have seen only this particular light gray text, that is select your pizza toppings, only that being typed onto the screen, while the remaining elements just stayed static. So it's quite simple and easy this time. We have only one typing element. In order to achieve this, you can simply drag and drop a typewriter element onto the screen and change the text. Edit text, type in your text, and close the editing box. You can scroll down, change the text color to, I have applied a little bit of light gray right here. So the only difference between toppings checkbox 3 and toppings checkbox 2 is that everything starts from 0. we have no space for all the three checkboxes and all three text elements. Everything starts from 0 and ends a little bit earlier than 2 seconds. But the only transition element or the animation element is this particular light gray text right here. Everything is static with no animation. So let's take a look at this particular element right here, open group. Here we have uh, two words, validation and then built-in. For validation, as we have seen previously from the one package one, here we have a similar effect. Here we have a similar effect. You can go ahead and duplicate the one package one for this particular scene and just change this validation from that particular text to this validation or the text that you want to replace right here, and then built in, and this built-in is basically coming from the top of the screen to the middle of the screen. So in order to achieve that, you can head over to motion, in transition, position, and bottom. Basically, so it basically comes from top of the screen to the middle. That's what we are aiming for, and this is the perfect transition or animation for that. And once it is right in place, you can simply click on back to main timeline, and here we are. So that is it for a part 2. These two already have a particular transition that is with built in. Here on the group, you can add in another transition. So as you can see here, once this particular element has ended, toppings checkbox 3, once we enter into this particular group, validation is already on the screen, and then built-in comes from top of the screen to the middle. We just saw that how to apply this particular transition. Now on the entire group, how it can exit the screen or the scene. If you want to add in another animation for that, you can simply, in this case, is exiting the screen. It's becoming small and exiting the screen. So since it's exiting the screen, you can head over to motion, out, and it's basically scaling. So let's click on scaling and then click on down. So it's becoming small as it goes. So that is pretty much it for this particular scene. So that is it for part 2. Let's head over to part 3.